What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Podcast interview where every single week I interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and straight top badasses out there dominating their spaces. They're people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, their families, as well as have a big impact on others. And today, you guys, got another rock star, amazing guest on the show. So our guest today, guys, is the CEO and co-founder of Real Wealth Network, which is an organization that's dedicated to delivering cutting-edge education information necessary for their clients to succeed at the highest level with real estate investing, as well as helping their clients build multi-million-dollar portfolios. She's a licensed realtor, formal licensed mortgage broker, active real estate investor, coach, speaker, real estate expert, and more. And is someone who really, truly knows what is going on in the real estate industry, right? There's the stuff that we hear on the news, and then there's the stuff that's really happening behind the scenes. And she is somebody that's in the trenches, that knows this stuff inside and out. So really stoked and honored to have Kathy Fettke in the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to have you on for a lot of reasons. But we're in I don't want to say a funky time with the industry, but it is, there's a lot of, I don't want to say concern. I mean, we've got a lot of technology companies that have entered the industry for, that's kind of doing some disruption, if you will, on how the business is done per se. Mm-hmm. But then there's a lot of concern about, hey man, are we at a bubble? I mean, there's a lot of things that are kind of having similarities of 2005 and got a lot of different opinions, I guess, on the topic, and a lot of unknowns out there. So excited to go into all of that and get your opinion on this. But before we do this, I'm always intrigued in our guest journeys that led them here in the first place. So if you rewind the clocks, like what led you into entrepreneurship and what led you into the real estate industry in the first place?
I'm one of those people that is unemployable. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I had a few jobs when I was younger, and I think I walked in late one day and the lady, looked at her watch and looked at me and gave me a dirty look. And I was like, what, you think you own my time? And then I thought, oh boy, she does own my time. And that was it. I'm like, no one's ever going to own my time again. That's mine. So I'm one of those people that has always found a need and filled it. It's like, what do I want? What do I wish there was out there? And then I would kind of create a business around that. So that was back in, oh my gosh, when I was very young. I wanted to be an actress. So I started a model at an acting agency, and I would submit myself, but under a different name. But I was a terrible actress. I was actually really, really bad, but I was good. I found out I was a good business person. So even though I never got booked, I ended up booking a lot of our people into pretty major shows. And then in real estate, that it was totally unexpected. But what I really wanted to do about 15 years ago was just understand how people could create passive income. I had heard about this ability to buy an asset and have that make money for you, but I really didn't understand it. And I thought you needed a lot of money to do it. So I had a radio show in San Francisco at the time, and I just started interviewing successful person after successful person. And you know what? There's a lot of value in that, right? I mean, it's wonderful that you're interviewing so many rock stars. You can learn so much. People are willing to share their information. And that's really what started my path 16 years ago now.
Yeah, love it. So then when you were interviewing all these successful people, I mean, was it just kind of connecting the dots where you just seeing that real estate was the common thread, the common trend that led you to your own vehicle of creating passive income?
Well, I can tell you that my mind was blown on every interview. I had not really grown up with a wealth mindset. I had parents that came from the era of the Great Depression. So there was just always this, keep your money tight and safe and don't take risks and all that. And most of us don't have much education on financial consciousness, on wealth consciousness. So I didn't have it for sure. So every single interview was just seriously like mind blown. The difference between somebody who really understands money and those who don't. So I would say that in the beginning, it was really, it came down to two things. People were making their passive income and making lots of income from real estate, but also business. So it really, then when you boil it all down, it's one thing, and it's business, because you have to treat your real estate like a business or it won't work. It has to be, you have to understand how to delegate. You have to understand how to hire good people, to, not do the jobs you're bad at, have someone else do those, and only do the things you're good at. There's so much to learn in it. So it really did boil down to, if you want to truly stop trading your time for money, but instead have all these assets that bring you money, whether you're working or not, you got to be great at business. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, with having the radio show, doing the interviews, I mean, was this something that was really just started to kind of solve your own problem, or was it, something that you thought that was going to be a path that you wanted to take from, maybe the acting to radio show host?
So I was always, like I said, always an entrepreneur, because I learned pretty young. I was the youngest of 5. I can't obey. I don't follow rules. I can't work for someone else. So that was always, I always had my own work. But when it really came to real estate, what I was starting to learn, I was starting to interview people who were retired by the age of 30. And I thought, even though I've been self-employed and I've been a business owner for years, I'm still working a lot. It's like I was still doing every job and not very great at delegating. So I started to really find out that some of these people were literally, they didn't even go to college. They started at 18, just kind of fixing up some homes and flipping them, and maybe buying a house, living in it for a couple of years, selling it, doing it again, getting, being able to sell it, paying no taxes. I just was shocked. I thought, man, if these people can do it, I can do it. They are no smarter than me. It's just a matter of understanding it better. So I think the first thing I learned was the power of leverage. That is a key no matter what, like in business and in real estate. How do you leverage your time? How do you, again, bring in other people who are better at things than you are so that you can do the things you are good at? That's leverage. In real estate, another great leverage is obviously leverage, and borrowing money from a bank, using their money to acquire an asset, and then having a tenant live in that asset, live in that building, and pay you money, which pays off that debt, and you haven't had to pay it. Like at the end of 10, 20, 30 years, you own the asset free and clear, but someone else paid it off for you. These kinds of things were just mind blowing. And that's why I dove in headfirst into real estate. But your question was I in a distressed situation? Yeah, because I really didn't understand money. And my husband and I had been doing everything right, doing everything our financial planners had told us. We were saving 10%. We were making pretty good money, but again, just trading time for dollars. And, but, investing 10%, saving 10%, and 10% for emergencies. We had our insurance. We had all these things. We were doing great. We just bought our first house. Rich had a successful business, wrote a book. That was an asset. We thought, wow, we got a book. We got to sell. You got to sell millions though, because you don't get much money on books. We didn't realize that. So it was when he was on his book tour that he saw a freckle on his forehead, and he's a redhead, so I don't know how he knew that freckle was something that needed to be checked. But he went to the doctor. It turned out to be melanoma. They thought it had spread. They did more tests, and they saw something on his liver, and they said, if this has metastasized to your liver, you probably have about 6 months to live. So yeah, that was my challenge, was like, oh my gosh. So the medical bills totally blew through our savings and our emergency fund and everything, the insurance, everything that we thought we had in place. We had the wrong insurance in place. It didn't cover all the medical. So we found ourselves just in a tough place with this new house and these little kids and like all these bills. And yeah, so I was on a desperate mission to figure out how to not struggle.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's insane. So then, so many, and maybe not to the extreme of the adversity that you were experiencing at that time, but when that stuff's going on, because it's like we get hit with turbulence in life, but a lot of people it can get tough. It's so overwhelming, and it's hard to get into action and know where to start. And and I can't even fathom the situation that you guys were experiencing at that point. But how did you get clarity on what to do and not just be so overwhelmed like so many people do, and then they just kind of shut down, bury your head in the sand. And you know, like what were the steps that you did to again get clarity and get in action?
That's a great question. I mean, when you're on the top of the world, I mean, literally one day we had our own home, 2 little kids, is on a book tour, everything's fantastic, and the next day it's not. So that is life, and that's you know, you got to be anti-fragile is a word I've heard. It's, for me, the biggest lesson actually that I learned and Rich learned at the same time was you have to have 100% faith in whatever it is that you want and that you're creating. Rich went to the doctors and so forth. Now he's healthy today, and the doctor was wrong, but at the time we didn't know. So I had him talk to sort of a woo-woo California healer guy. He's like, you know, no, I don't believe in that. But you know what, just do it. So he did. And this guy kind of is talking to Rich, and he's like, so how much of you believes you'll survive this? And Rich is like, well, you know, 80%, but there's this part of me that isn't sure. And this guy goes, his name's Greg Joseph. He's an incredible healer and coach. He just looks at Rich and says, that 20% of doubt is killing you. and in that moment, Rich is a motivational speaker. His book was on extreme success. He's like, wait, I teach that. You know, of course. He goes, 100% of me believes I'm going to live. Like in that moment, he shifted it, just tossed the doubt out the window. And it was like, no, I'm 100% committed to living. And at the same time, not in the room, we weren't together when this happened, but I was thinking to myself, you know what? I have 100% faith and commitment that I can handle the financial piece of this so that he can get better. And I didn't know how. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for a few years. I was out of the work business. I had no idea how I was going to do it, but it was that shift, like no room for doubt. Like it's go time, and you make it happen no matter what. It's 100% commitment. And when you get to that place, sometimes it takes something difficult and awful to get you there, but hopefully not. Hopefully you can just know what you want and be 100% committed to it. Like health, for example. It's like, hey, I'm going to be healthy. So that means 100%. That means there's no room for the chocolate chip cookie that actually I just ate.
Yeah. Love it. Well, and you hear the greats, you know, like I was just reading, I've been on this huge Oprah kick, like binging all of her materials. And she talks so heavily about the most important thing being your belief in yourself. Like you must fully believe it's possible. If there's that doubt, it's just not going to happen. It can't manifest into it.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, I mean, you guys' backs were against the wall. It was an extreme, you know, case. And if, because I'm sure then since things you've had moments where, because that becomes no longer, not that you're still not committed to health and committed to these things, but life gets good again. And it can be tough to kind of figure out what you want. And if somebody's not going through those tough times, you know, it's something I get asked about a lot, and something I've struggled with a lot over the years too, is like, well, what do I really want? You know, you think you might want this nice house, nice car, and then you get it and you're like, well, that didn't really do anything for me. And, you know, it's hard to identify what is most important to you. Like, what advice would you have to somebody that's struggling with their purpose or their why, or whatever terminology people want to call it, to get that type of clarity where then you can start that belief process?
It is such a good point, because I have succeeded and I've had the things that, you know, people would think make you happy. And I can tell you, you hear it all the time. It doesn't. Like your happiness or your joy or whatever you want to call it over that new thing tends to be pretty short-lived. And then, you know, that empty hole is like, you got to have more, and what's that next thing that's going to make you excited. So I literally just listened to the Tony Robbins podcast yesterday, and the thing he talked about, the same thing. It's like, it's about the journey. It's about the process. It's about creation, about having a goal. That is actually what brings us joy. My husband does it naturally. Like, he's always got a goal. He gets up every single morning. He has his goals listed. He looks at them. He has pictures of them, and he just goes to the checklist and he does it. And he tracks it. And that brings him incredible joy. Other people might think, well, what's going to bring me joy is this chocolate chip cookie. Well, it will. You know, it will for that 10 minutes, but you know what, as soon as you're done with it, you're going to want another, and it just never ends. So, you know what makes you feel better? Not having that cookie and doing 10 push-ups, because then you're reaching your goal. So, it really is about the journey and creation. We are creatures that are here to create. And once we stop creating, once we stop striving, life gets pretty boring. So that's one thing. Another is just to really, really get clear, sit down and write down the things that matter to you. You do know what those things are. Write them down. And a friend of mine, Brian Scrone, who's also in the real estate business, he wrote a book on this. Basically, let me see if I can remember the name. It'll come to me. But he says, like, write down the things that matter most to you. Great. Okay. You do that. It's like 7 to 10 things, and anyone can do that. Then you write next to it, which ones are you spending the most time on? And I'll tell you what, almost every time, the thing that matters most to you is the thing you're spending the least time on. It's weird. It's a weird thing that humans do. I don't know why. But, you know, if you reversed it and said, okay, well, you know, my health, maybe my spiritual life, my spouse, my children, my friends, whatever it is that's most important, your VIP list, how much time are you really investing in those things? I'm telling you, it hits the bottom of the list. It's crazy. I have an assistant. I'm so bummed because she's worked for us for 10 years. She's amazing. But she is pursuing her passion, and her life is insane. She and her husband, she just got married, and they're like, you know what? We are not going to do it the way everybody else is doing it. They saved the money that they were earning. She was getting pretty well paid through Real Wealth Network. She had a good salary. They have taken off, and they are literally just going to travel the world for a couple of years. They've saved enough because they're in, I don't know, Bali right now, and they're staying in this incredible resort that's it's like it's so cheap. Their meals are $2, and it looks like an incredible resort. It's like they just kind of got their priorities straight, but not a lot of people do. It's interesting.
Yeah. It's, you know, more people will spend more time designing this Christmas than they do their life plan, or even their grocery list than they do their life plan, or really thinking about it. And one of your talking points, you talked about staying highly in tune with your core values, and what truly inspires you. And you see so many people talk about core values, especially in the business world. Oh, get your business values and get the mission statement. And I went through this too, where I just found myself like finding lists of words and then just circling the ones I thought would look best on the, you know, like, and there's more to it than that, but they didn't really truly inspire me. They didn't really pull me and try to get me to create the best or become the best version of myself. And, you know, can you kind of just run us through like, how do you identify your core values that do pull you? Right. That you don't, you know, it's like motivation pushes you, but only lasts so long, you know, right. So you got to find those things that, you know, convict you or truly pull you. And, you know, how do you identify them and where you are able to stay in that inspiration state?
You know, I was a personal coach for many years, and my husband still is. We're trained coaches. And one of the exercises we would do that helps with this is to actually write down the things that drive you crazy and that piss you off. Because we have an easier time thinking of those things, you know, because our brains are sort of prone to thinking of the negative. It's kind of, you know, millions of years or however many thousands of years we had to always be aware of what's going to eat us, you know, what's going to kill us or eat us. So, you know, we tend to have that not a negativity bias. So you pretty easily can write down the things that really just tick you off. And from there, you can take that and do and look for the opposite. So if it's, I just can't stand it when people sit around and gossip or people talk behind my back. I hate that. Why don't they just tell me? So then the opposite of that would be, you know, direct communication, you know, a transparency, whatever it is. So that's a core value. Like, that's not something I'm just making up. It's real. Like, you know, if you got a problem with me, tell me. You know, and it really comes down to, like, even if we've got members of Real Wealth Network and they want to tell all over Yelp or all over the internet how they feel about me before telling me, yeah, hey, you don't get to be a part of the network, you know, because we believe in transparency and direct communication. So anyway, that's just one way to find those things. And it's got to be real. And it can be changing, you're not stuck with a group of values. For example, we have we're learning, hey, every company goes through growth phases. You start out as a baby and then toddler and then adolescence. I mean, it's a process growing a business, and you can't expect to be an adult when you start. You start out as a baby and you fall down a lot. That's what babies do. So you just got to know that you're never going to get it right in the beginning. It's part of the process. It's part of what gets you there. So one of the things we notice is, hey, okay, Rich and I are supposed to be, I'm the visionary, he's the integrator. We're doing this EOS thing. We've got the directors. We're trying it out. It's just not, we're like, we're falling all over the place. And then then the directors started being angry, and there was all this like back talking, side talking, behind the back stuff, like I said. And we didn't have transparency in our core values. And so we had one of those, you'd have the offsite retreats, the quarterly retreats. And Rich brought it up. He's like, look, I know this is happening. How do you guys feel about having transparency really be one of our core values that we live by? And they're like, yeah. It's like, okay, well, we're going to do it. Ben, what would you like to say to Tim now? And he's like, no, if this is going to be a core value, we're going to do it. So anyway, it changes over time. It's got to be real, and it doesn't need to be necessarily something that looks good on a website. I mean, I've seen all kinds of crazy core values. It just has to be what matters. And what we haven't done yet completely is to bring that to our membership. Like, look, these are our core values, and we're asking you to have these too.
Yeah, powerful stuff. So then, as far as, do those become, because we talked about the core values and the talking point, but then it becomes something that inspires you, is it something is it the work to, as you grow and expand, always operate at the level 10, if you will, with those, meaning that, like, do those become kind of like your internal compass? And I guess this kind of comes back to the why portion, because some people think that they got to have this, define why, like Elon Musk is solving interstellar space travel, where it's just like, well, hey, man, for me, I boiled down, look, I just want to go expand, hopefully, into the best version of myself and do everything I can to do that. Well, then I've got to define what expansion means to me, right? Which could be operating at a level 10 of those core values at all times in my growth phases. Is that, through all the different phases of success that you've had in all these journeys, is that what you find inspires you with the work that you do?
Yeah, the mission, our mission is to raise wealth consciousness. And it's like deep inside of me, because I know the pain of having the opposite. I know what it's like to have a scarcity mindset and to be struggling and not understand money and just constantly be losing it and or not making it. Like, I know what that feels like, and it's awful because you can't spend time with the people you love, and can't necessarily be in a great mood when you're broke. So to me, it comes from a deep place of me so desperately wanting to understand it myself and wanting to share that with other people, because I watch them suffer too. Not being able to really focus on the things that matter most because they're just trying to feed the family, So for us, that mission is clear. It's like, we are determined to help raise wealth consciousness of the world, so the world can just be a better place and people can spend more time with their children, and those children grow up happier, and we don't have so many mass murders. I mean, you could keep going down the list. Like, what's it going to take to get there to a happy world?
Yeah, I love it. And then you have the camp that says, money doesn't buy happiness. But I have a good friend of mine that said, yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, and that's true. However, there's a minimum amount of money that we all must make in order to experience happiness. Mm-hmm. And then once you get beyond that, maybe it doesn't create more happiness, right? Mm-hmm. But like you mentioned, if you're stressed about bills, you're stressed about paying the mortgage this next month, it's tough to go out there and be fully present with your kids and, experience life. So with our audience being entrepreneurs and business owners, like for the entrepreneur and the business owner, when you talk about raising awareness of wealth consciousness, because it's in scary times, right? When you hear statistics, I just heard that the top 1% of wealthiest Americans cumulative wealth is about to surpass all of the middle class cumulative wealth combined. Like for the first time, right? And I heard a stat the other day that the average 60 2-year-old only has like $25,000 in retirement, and only 2% of Americans can retire at the age of 65 without being reliant on family members and the government. And especially for real estate agents, it's like, we don't have 401ks. We don't have, and a lot of people aren't thinking about the future because they're so focused on the now. So like, where do you start with having the wealth, just the awareness where we can start planning the right way and making the right moves for the future? If you were to give advice to our audience.
You just reminded me of my core value. I mean, really, like I'm on a mission to help raise wealth consciousness for the reason you just said. There is no reason why any of us are not in that 1%. What's the difference? What's the difference? And that's what I learned when I was interviewing people on the Real Wealth Show, is like, wait, these are just normal people, but they're doing something different. What is that thing that's different? So I don't know why we're not taught how to build wealth. I don't know if that's something coming from above or whatever. All I know is that anyone can be in that 1% if they really apply themselves. Maybe they're just too distracted with their phones and their TVs and their football or whatever, but any person on this planet who decided that they wanted to live differently, they could. But it starts with being able to see the opportunity, being able to have a dream and go after it and like understand what those steps are. So, I mean, that's my main suggestion. There's no reason to be fearful. There's never been a time in history where you can make wealth as quickly as you can today. There has never been. We have several billion people about to go online. They're about to have access to phones. They're about to have access to internet. If you're familiar with a company called Singularity University, it's showing us what's coming over the next 10 years. And I'm going to tell you right now, the next 10 years are going to be like nothing we've ever seen. We are so lucky to be alive today and to witness what is about to happen on Earth. And it is going to be like nothing we've ever seen. I'm going to be flying my little drone around. We're going to be able to get drinking water out of the clouds. We're going to be able to, a town is going to be able to have electricity from a little tiny solar box. I mean, the things that are coming are incredible. So don't listen to headlines. Headlines are meant to get your attention. And the only way to get your attention is to really scare the hell out of you. That's how it works. I've been in the news my whole life. I know how it works. When I worked at CNN and Fox News and ABC, it's about getting your attention. And the only way to get your attention in today's very busy world is to have a terrifying headline. Don't buy into it. There is so much opportunity, but you can't sit around. You cannot sit around. You've never been able to sit around. I mean, go back a million years, you'd get eaten. You can't just expect things to happen for you. You got to go out and get it. And it's there for you. But, just start learning and reading and finding out how other people are doing it. And it's addictive. It will get you too. Once you understand the steps. I mean, if you knew that underneath that rock over there was the secret to wealth, you go pick up that rock and you figure out what's there. There's rocks everywhere. There's so many clues to how to build wealth, but it's not going to be handed to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the information, age or whatever you want to call it that we're in, I mean, there's more information readily available than any other time in recorded history, right? So the how-tos can be figured out. There's steps that people have paved and given us in the past that exists out there, but then you still see so many people that just don't get into action. And you made a comment a moment ago of, you don't have to live like everyone else or in that way, but then from there and just trying to get your opinion from somebody that's created so much success personally, but then somebody that works with so many people that have created so much success for themselves. If you were to break it down to the reasons that maybe people don't take this journey, even when they have the how-tos, right? Because it's like, okay, and you've heard the quote of, if you want to live like nobody else, you got to be willing to live today like nobody else so you can live, because there is sacrifice and there's the discipline and there's the, different things with that. I mean, if you were to boil it down from like, what are the traits, I guess, that you see, like whether it's discipline, commitment, the willing to make those sacrifices that you've seen through your success journey, as well as with all of your clients that you've helped, that it's like, you got to have these things.
Uh, it really comes down to bringing yourself back to life. We have a lot of pressure to shut down, whether it's, I don't know, I could throw a whole bunch of things out there, but drinking alcohol, smoking weed, taking painkillers, whatever, there's a lot of ways to not feel. And it's really important to feel, because if you don't feel, you're just going to be a zombie walking around just trying to find the next thing, the next thrill. But once you feel, and it's scary because at first it might not feel good, it might not feel good, but that's the launch pad place. Because once you recognize, like, oh, my hand's on the stove, it hurts, I'll pull it off. That's when you know. But if you don't know, your hand's going to burn because you can't feel. So start with really recognizing, like, what am I feeling right now? Oh, this isn't feeling good. Well, what would feel better? And taking those next steps. I'm going to tell you right now, unless you're planning on being a director, a film director, or a script writer, you shouldn't be watching every episode on Netflix. It's easy to do. So maybe discipline is part of it. But that's another way to just numb out. We're a generation that would probably prefer to numb out because there's a lot of pain out there. But I'll tell you what, pain is what's going to get you there. So you've got to be willing to feel it, so that when you feel it, you'll take action.
Yeah, love it. So then when it comes to the work that you're doing today, giving, the information and the tools and the insight to your clients who are developing their wealth through real estate and real estate investments, and our audience are real estate agents, investors, or agents that are representing investors. And again, there's a lot of, mixed. I get this question probably a dozen times a day, whether it's in a Facebook group or whatever, but when do you think the market's going to shift? Right? Like, what's going on, the uncertainties and the crazy things going on out there. As we enter 2020, and I know that this is a really loaded question because there's a lot of that goes into it, but what kind of advice would you say with the climate of the real estate market that we're in right now, things maybe to really watch out for, or maybe opportunities to be even had?
Sure. The way I see the 1 to 4 unit residential housing market, mainly single family homes, I actually am extremely confident in the future of not homeownership, but owning homes, whether you live in it or not, because we're in an environment today where, again, you're going to see negative headlines all the time because reporters are looking for a story that's going to get your attention. They don't know anything about the business. So don't worry about those articles. Just look at data and facts. So when you look at data and facts, what we know is that over the last 10 years, it was an opportunity of a lifetime to buy cheap real estate, distressed properties. They were low-hanging fruit. You could get short sales and foreclosures and almost new homes for half the price or a quarter of the price. I mean, it was insane. If you got into buying real estate in 2009, 2010, 11, 12, even 13, then you should be able to retire today. So it was incredible. Over the last 10 years, the people who did buy those homes locked in low mortgage payments. They've been paying down their loans. They're maybe a third of the way down to paying off their 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and not too many are taking their equity out. The property value has gone up, so they're sitting on low fixed rate payments with a ton of equity, and they had to qualify for these loans. Don't be looking for a foreclosure because they're not out there. We have a very low foreclosure rate today. Not much distress out there. And even if there was distress, if somebody got sick or divorced or had to, whatever, sell the home quickly, now you got the iBuyers that are going to swoop in and buy those properties. It's just, there is very little trouble ahead in the single family or 1 to 4 unit housing market. The trouble really is that there's not enough of it. We've had wage growth. We've had population growth. 25 million more people approximately in the U.S. Since the last recession. That's 25 more million people, but there hasn't been a lot of new housing stock. In fact, in a lot of cities, a lot of housing stock was just torn down, like in Cleveland and Detroit. They just raised it. So you've got builders who totally got hammered during the last recession, just out of business. Banks won't lend to builders anymore. It's really tough to get a loan. That's why at Real Wealth Network, we syndicate, because we find that an opportunity to, raise a bunch of money and go buy some land and build houses, because you can't get loans. It's been, a really great opportunity. But the bottom line is we don't have enough housing that people can afford to buy. The only thing builders can build right now is more expensive homes, because permit fees have gone up, the labor costs have gone up, material costs have gone up. It's so hard to build a home that is in the affordable range that the average person can buy. So they're building more expensive stuff, and that's kind of just sitting there. There's not as much demand for that. A lot of Chinese buyers are gone. So what I see moving forward is if you can stay in that, know what the average income of an area is, and the home price should only be about 3 times that. That's what I consider affordable housing. That something somebody can afford. I'm not talking about government subsidized. I'm just talking about the average Joe can buy the average house. There's not enough of it. So if you can get in there and buy a property that's maybe a little older, fix it up, that is going to be a hot commodity. There's the supply demand imbalance is so bad. It's looking like it won't even be till 2024 until there's any kind of balance in supply and demand. And until then, it's demand and not supply. So we'll probably continue to see prices go up on that affordable range, anything under $400,000 and more in the $200,000 range. Anything over $800,000 is really slow. Interestingly enough, with the tax breaks, the ultra wealthy are making tons of money. They're getting about $1 million extra every year on tax breaks. So the super high-end homes are moving, but that sort of $800,000 to $2 million is just, it's kind of slow, and that's what builders are building. So anyway, my summed up thesis is if you're trying to buy or sell or flip higher end homes, it's going to be a little harder. It's going to be a little slower. I don't see it. I think we've hit a peak. I think we've hit a ceiling. I don't see any crash coming. I just don't think, it's going to be flat. In the lower end range, I think there's room for a little bit more price growth. Great opportunity to cash flow and see prices go up. I mean, this is what I tell my clients. Like it is the opportunity of a lifetime to sell the properties that you bought that made all this equity, and now they got all this debt equity sitting there. Maybe in California they bought a $300,000 condo. It's worth $900,000. That's $600,000 equity just sitting there. Sell that 1031 exchange it into 6 properties somewhere else. Diversify. That is the key right now, is this transfer of wealth from the properties that have made all the money, transferring it into properties that are just about to boom. And there are areas in the country that are about to boom. So if you can get ahead of that, you can ride that wave a little bit longer. That's my opinion. I think we have good times ahead. The GDP, this expansion, everybody's saying it's 10 years now, longest expansion. You know what? There's not a due date for an economy, for a recession. It doesn't work that way. We've only had in this expansion, we're only about halfway, in terms of growth, output, GDP, we're only about halfway to the kind of growth that we've had in other expansions. It's just been slower because we flatlined in 2008. It's been slow growth. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we're just in this kind of slow and steady world where not a lot of ups, not a lot of downs. Got to be smart. You can't make mistakes, because if you made a mistake when prices are going up, it's okay. You make a mistake in a flat market, it's going to hurt. So got to buy the right thing. If you're going to flip, you got to get it cheap, know your repair value. If you're going to buy rental property, it's got to cash flow. I think it's a great time to build wealth.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, and then, because you got the let's just say the economist camp that is, consumer debt is, with student loan debt now exceeding 1.4 trillion and 84-month auto loans at all-time highs, and with there being less, let's just say, middle class jobs or income, dropping or whatever, that could create, whatever terminology they're using, or economy's house of cards or whatever. But when it comes to real estate itself, like for the first time ever, and I'm not a heavy on the investment side, but I've been a real estate agent and have a team in a brokerage here in Arizona. I've been in the industry since 2005. And for the first time ever, like we're seeing companies like Blackstone just coming in and swallowing up so much single family attached property. Like HUD isn't even getting the foreclosure market anymore. They're just packaging them up, selling to Blackstone, right? And it's like, even if the foreclosures do exist, these huge institutions are swallowing up so fast. So, it's definitely interesting times for sure. I'm really curious, and I want to just be clear of those that may be watching or listening, the information that you are giving, that's on a nationwide kind of a scale, right? So, because real estate can be hyper local, there's certain markets where things might be going on differently than the rest of the country and whatnot. But what are the things that you really look for when you're doing all your research and data? Is it mainly, population growth, or is it like, what are some of the like if I'm a real estate agent or a broker owner trying to build my business, am I on a hyper local point? Like, what are some KPIs with inventory rates and things that I can start paying attention to, so I can hopefully, connect the dots to the whole Wayne Gretzky of, I don't skate to where the puck is to where it's going, right? So hopefully you can adjust before it's too late.
Again, you hit on the lack of wealth consciousness in this country. Like it's, people are running out and getting these massive student loans, and then right out the bat, getting a car, and their debt to income ratios are just whacked. So for a lot of these young people trying to go buy a house, forget about it. They can't, even if they make money, they've got the credit card debt, the car debt, and the student loan debt that's going to prevent them from being able to buy a house because they did things backwards. So what does that mean? That means that there's going to be more renters. I just read a report that in the last 10 years, and there was, like I said, there was about almost 25 million more people in the U.S. About 700,000 of that group of 25 million is homeowners. The rest are renters. So it is sad. It's, as a real estate agent, you have a couple things you can do. You can be an incredible resource to people, really helping them understand money. That, like I did, I grabbed my kid when she turned 24. She had just got out of college, worked 2 years, and she's like, "Hey, Mom, I just found out I have an 800 credit score. I've saved $10,000. I'm going to go buy a car." And I was like, "Oh, girl, like, do you not know who your mother is?" So that before you buy that car, can we just go talk to a lender? And she's like, "Oh, no, I'm 24. I'm not going to buy a house." I said, well, let's just go talk to a lender. So we did, and it turns out she could qualify for a $300,000 house. She was blown away. So we started shopping, and it turned out that she could buy a 3-bedroom house, and it was the same cost as the 2-bedroom apartment she was in. She was like, "Whoa, I had no idea. 3% down? What?" She had that. She had saved that kind of money. She bought that house, and shortly after we had the California fires, all of, Paradise burned down. Her house was in Chico and is in Chico. So her mortgage payment's $1,400 on that house. She started getting calls from people saying, "I'll pay $3,000, $3,500, like whatever. I'll pay anything if I can live in your house." So she's like, okay. So she rented it out for $3,500, all furnished, kind of put her stuff in the garage, her clothes, and went and traveled, cash flowing $2,000 a month. And the insurance company's paying for this person to live there and pay. So like, she understands now, oh, okay, I'm not too young to understand this and do this. She, instead of buying a car, she's making $2,000 a month in cash flow, and someone's paying down her mortgage for her. This is the kind of thing as an agent you can do as you educate people, young people. Get out there and tell them how they can truly build wealth if they just understand a few basic things. It's a great opportunity. If, another opportunity is going to all these seniors who have a bunch of money and don't know what to do with it and aren't getting very much of a return anywhere. Hey, teach them how to buy investment property. There's going to be huge demand for rentals. So we have just an enormous amount of education on our website. I wrote a book called Retire Rich with Rentals. It can help people, go through the checklist of what to do. But there's not very many real estate agents who understand investment property, but if you could be one of them that really learns how to educate your customers, they'll love you forever, and they'll be your customer forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Couldn't agree more. And just like you did before you went on your, you know, uh, uh, wealth journey creation, not that you weren't already an entrepreneur at that point, but you went out there and you researched and studied the elite and what they did. So you knew the things to execute on. And, like we need, in order for real estate agents to do that, like they need to educate themselves and hopefully are an investor themselves so they can truly
Mm-hmm.
educate their clients. And so that being said, can you talk to us about Real Wealth Network and like what you guys do? And, if anybody that's watching and listening were to, let's just say, join your platform to get that education, start investing themselves, help their clients invest, like can you just kind of walk us through an overview of what you guys do there?
For sure. It's Real Wealth Network, like real estate, wealth, and network we have. There's so much information on there. Oh my gosh, so much free information. It's free to join. You do have to fill out an investor questionnaire because it's required by the SEC. And someone told me yesterday, oh, it's too many questions, but you can just get through it. It'll open up the portals to our website. They'll give you all this data on the cities where the job growth is, where the population growth is, contacts in those cities where you can, have agents in the area to help you find the house, help you renovate it, or maybe it's already renovated. We have contacts with builders, so you could buy new homes that make great rentals that are under $200,000 in huge job growth and population growth areas like Orlando and Atlanta. And then, list of property managers that have great track record. I mean, so much information, plus interviews with CPAs to talk about all the amazing ways you can save taxes through rental property. I mean, these are things you need to know as an agent. So just watch our CPA videos, watch our 1031 exchange. I mean, you should be able to talk about that like it inside and out. It's really important. Never give legal or accounting advice, but at least be able to know enough to say, hey, talk to your CPA about this. Or, anyway, you can get a lot of that education free on our website. We also help people buy real estate nationwide, rental properties. We do syndications that, like I said, people who just want a passive investment, they don't want to own anything. They just want to invest like a stock. We have that type of thing where we pool funds and we buy land and we build houses and sell them in Reno and Tampa and kind of all over the country. So it's a great resource. I also have Real Estate News. That's a podcast I have. It's called Real Estate News. If you're a real estate agent, you should be listening to that. I love the show. It's 7 minutes. It's super just quick. I mean, you could listen to it while you're brushing your teeth, and it will keep you super informed so that when clients are asking you things, you'll know answers to everything. It's like, what's Zillow doing? Oh, I know. I just listened to this 7-minute podcast. And the world is going to be changing so much in the next 10 years. You cannot be complacent. So I'm really all about futurism, knowing what's coming, and you can get that in little 7-minute bites on my Real Estate News podcast. So I do recommend that.
Yep, love it. And those watching and listening, we'll make it super easy on you wherever you're at. We'll have all those links right below so you can connect and go check those out right away. So I'm really curious, with everything that you know now today, throughout this whole entire journey, if you could go back, Kathy today, knowing everything you know now, could go back to Kathy when you first started your business journey, entrepreneur journey, let's just say, or any point you decide to go back to, but give yourself 2 pieces of advice that you feel would have just massively fast forwarded this trajectory to success that you're in. And again, knowing everything you know now today, what would those 2 pieces of advice be?
Just kind of looking back, I would have studied more before diving into certain things. I'm a quick start, I go, but just taking that little bit of time to really research the thing. Like, for example, I syndicated an apartment building. I hadn't studied enough, and I didn't have my advisors that I have now, and it did not go well. It was very, very difficult. So the School of Hard Knocks it's not an easy school. I don't recommend it when you could just read a book for $20 and learn. So just, before diving in on anything, if you're going to start a business, just read a book on starting a business. If you're going to invest in apartments, read a few books and, just get the foundation. It's real easy to kind of do anything in the US. It's like a great place for opportunity, but unfortunately there's a negative to that where you can really fall on your face. So just get the right team in place, people who have done what you want to do on your team, or follow them, read their books. So that would be number 1. Number 2, let's see what I would have done differently. I would have I don't know if you just saw that a company in Maryland, I think, just gave $10 million bonuses to their people. You know, if I had really done what I just told you, I would have been one of those people giving those $10 million bonuses because I had everything in place. I just didn't know. So, you know, get going because we're at a time where, I mean, every single day, you know this with real estate. I don't want to sound like a typical real estate agent, but it's true. Like, when's the best time to buy real estate? 30 years ago. When's the next best time? Now. Like, don't let too much time go by. You have a great opportunity with these millennials to teach them how to build wealth because time is valuable when it comes to real estate.
Yeah, love it. And I got one last question for you. Just because you mentioned earlier on when you were talking about, you know, when you found out your husband had cancer and it potentially could have been liver cancer, and having the work that he did with the you know, spiritual healer, however you call whatever title you called that. But I'm really curious to know, with your overall success and fulfillment that you created, you know, right? Because you have the financial success component, but that doesn't equate to necessary fulfillment. Do you, going through this journey that you've done, I mean, do you feel that those were both, like, what percentage of, to be truly fulfilled, you know, right? And I'm kind of stepping on my words here. I've never asked this question on the show, but, you know, because you see people that have money or don't have money, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be fulfilled out there and truly have joy. You know, with all the success that you've had, though, how important do you think that is to go deeper and do, whatever we want to term it, you know, whatever terminology you want to use, whether it's spiritual work or whatever, but, you know, to find those core values, to find those things that will bring true joy other than the chocolate chip cookie that's instant joy, you know, right? Like, I mean, how important do you truly feel that is to true lasting fulfillment?
It's everything, you know, it's everything, because otherwise it's real easy to get sidetracked and chase, you know, shiny objects. And I see it all the time, you know, following the ego. And it's at the end of it all, you know, you're going to end up pretty empty if you've been just following the shiny stuff. It's just truth. Now, I'm not saying that if you want a Lamborghini, like that's your dream, go get that Lamborghini, you know, make that your goal and drive it like that Lamborghini should be driven. But at the same time, you know, if you don't have the core value in place, then that's not going to be enough. You're going to need another one. And so, you know, for me, one of the great things Rich said when the doctor told him he had 6 months to live, he goes, wow, you know, I'm really glad I have no regrets. He goes, you know, it's amazing. I just realized that if the doctor was right, I actually feel complete. And, you know, the doctor was wrong and he's healthy and he's my partner today and he's amazing. But Rich has never, he's lived, you know, he knows what he wants to do and he does it. He invests in his friendships. He goes on guys trips. They do like rad, crazy skiing. He surfs, he climbs, he always takes Fridays off and does those things. I know people who don't spend any time with their friends. I know men who don't have friends because they don't invest. So he really invests in the things that matter. And me as his wife, I can tell you, he invests in our relationship. He makes sure that we're taking vacations together and we're getting away. We're having date nights because I am important to him. I am at the top of the list. And so often we put our spouses at the bottom. It's funny, but he just today, he goes, you know, I just did a meditation and you know what my meditation told me? You need a massage. He gave me a massage this morning. I mean, it was like, wow, I love your spiritual guide. You know, like, but seriously, like, just like make that list of what's important to you and just invest in that. And sometimes it's not a lot of time investment. I said this on another podcast, like literally sometimes if you're running around, everybody's running around, your kid's got this going on, and, you know, it's like sometimes just stopping and looking your kid in the eye and just saying, you know, I'm so proud of you. I noticed you did this and I noticed you did this. And I just want you to know that I'm watching and I love you. Like that took what, 30 seconds, 10 seconds? And it make the world of difference. Just calling up a friend and saying you're thinking about them, sending them something for their birthday. These are things that don't take time, but can make a world of difference when you make it a priority. But just like when we started being empty nesters a couple of years ago, I was a little worried that, oh, you know, do we still even like each other? I don't know. We've been focused on all these other things. But at that moment, we're like, no, this is important to us. We have another 50 years together. Let's make it great. So the first thing we did, we didn't need it, but we went to marriage counseling. We went to Tantra classes. We went to Burning Man. We did like what's going to make this relationship over the top amazing? And it's like, all of a sudden, it's like we first met. It's like we're dating again. It's crazy. We're having so much fun, but it takes time, investment, focus. So it's everything. You've got to know what's important and invest in those things.
Yeah, love it. Such powerful stuff. And those watching and listening, again, right below wherever you're at, we're going to have all those links where you can join, check out Real Wealth Network, check out the podcast, all of that. And I know I interview podcasts for this, but information without implementation is truly the start of delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information and taking action on it, which gives you the power to go out there and create the life that you know you want and deserve. And Kathy shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you guys. They take something that you learn, take immediate action on it so you can go out there and, again, create that life that you know you want and deserve. And Kathy, I truly appreciate you taking your time to be here. I know how busy you are, and this has been a lot of fun and just a massive honor. And thank you for being here. It means a lot.
Thank you so much.
100%. All right, you guys, thank you again for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.